First, I really would like to thank everybody for their love and support. I see people who know us, and I see people who know Hindela from many, many years ago. Her high school principal, teachers that had her in the class, old friends, and old friends of ours. 4 years ago, Shlomo and I had the privilege of going to visit, to pray at the grave of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was the founder of the Hasidic movement, our grandfather, so to speak. And we went there on a pilgrimage. It was very, very difficult getting there. And the depth of the connection, there are no words. When I first arrived in Israel from living many years in India, it was 1974. I had no idea who the Baal Shem Tov was, but one of the first stories that I was told was a Baal Shem Tov story, and this is the story that I was told. There was a couple that were married for many, many years, and they lived in a small shtetl, and they didn't have children. And they prayed and they prayed and they prayed, and their prayers were not answered. And somebody suggested that they go to see the holy Baal Shem Tov, and they went and they begged him, and he gave them a blessing for children, and they had a child. When the child was 2 years old, this child passed away, and the parents, with great heartbreak, traveled back to the Baal Shem Tov, and they asked him, how could you have given us this blessing? How could you have given us a blessing for a child and then taken the child away? And the Baal Shem Tov told them the following story. He said there was a king, and the king was very, very wealthy, ruled many, many kingdoms, but he had no children to leave his kingdom or his fortune to. And he was very, very distraught, and one of his ministers said, the way that you can get children is get the Jews, the Jewish nation, to pray for you. So he said, okay, what do I need to do? What kind of gifts do I need to give them? What do I need to do to have them pray for me? And the minister said, no, you can't give them a gift. Threaten them, expel them, make them pray for you to have a child within a year, and if not, you will expel them from your kingdom. And so when this decree came down with great, great gravity, the community prayed and they prayed and they prayed for this king to have a child, and the king did have a child. And the child was so beloved to the king that the king never let this child out of his sight. And so he found the most brilliant person in his kingdom to come and to tutor him and to raise him in the way of great sciences, literature, whatever one needed to know. And when the tutor came to him, he said, I agreed to move into the palace, and I agreed to stay here with you, but I need 2 hours a day, totally private, that no one may disturb me, and on those conditions I will stay. And so this tutor stayed, and he raised this child, and he taught him great, great wisdom, and the child was quite clever. But as the child grew up and he loved his tutor, he always wondered, why is the tutor secluding himself in a room? What is he doing in there? And one day this child snuck in the room and he hid. And what did he see? He saw his tutor putting on talis and tefillin. The tutor was a Jew who couldn't openly be a Jew, but he practiced it in his heart, he practiced it in practice, and in secret. So the child was so enamored with his tutor that he begged the tutor, please teach me what you're studying. And he begged, and finally the tutor did. And at a certain point when the child grew old enough, he said to the tutor, I want to be a Jew. And the tutor said, the king will banish you. He will banish me from the kingdom. And he said, don't worry, I have a plan. And he told his father that he needed to travel to the distant lands of the kingdom to find out how to rule. And in that way, he was able to leave the palace. And he left the country, and he went to another country, and he converted to Judaism, and he lived the rest of his life as a Jew. And the Baal Shem Tov is continuing the story, telling the parents. And at some point, when this holy Jew died and went up to the higher worlds, it was determined that he would receive certain holy benefits, certain holy ascendancies in his life, but he needed to complete something. There was only one small thing that he needed to complete, and that was to be born from a Jewish mother. And so the soul was sent back down into the world for that period of 2 years to complete its journey. And the Baal Shem Tov turned to the parents and said, "You were privileged to usher this holy soul to the higher worlds." When I heard this story in 1974, and I told this story over many years, it certainly felt very different than having to live this story and understand it from my heart. We as a family, and many, many of you here who knew or know my children and knew Shula, love Shula. We all love Shula. In fact, many of you here know that I'm very anti-candy, but Shula was my only grandchild that could get pink marshmallows on demand. I want to ask everybody here, in particular the women, to do us a favor. If you saw in the pictures, when there was a picture of Shula standing in front of Shabbos candles and her brothers looking at her, Shula turned 3 this summer. And it's our custom for our daughters to light candles when they're 3 years old. And the picture that you saw was Shula lighting her Friday night candle for the first time, and the tremendous joy she had in lighting. I know that there are many, many people here that already light candles, but some might not light before sundown with a blessing, which is the holy Jewish way to light. Some of you don't light candles yet, and I would like to ask those of you who don't light candles, we have candle lighting kits outside, to please take one to learn the blessings. You can call us, we'll help you. And for the elevation of the soul of Alta Shula, the daughter of Yosef Yitzhak and Hindela, to please light candles. And if you are a woman here who already lights Shabbos candles, please take on yourself a commitment to ask a minimum of 2 other women that don't already light to light. It could be your next door neighbor. I have a neighbor who's 105 and lights candles now. It could be the women at the dry cleaner. It could be somebody you meet in line at the supermarket. Please, on your way out, take candle kits with you. Everybody here, if everybody here would ask another 2 people in the name of Shula to light, we can bring more light and more holiness into the world.